What we're doing here is to show you how to achieve this styling using style elements. So we'll start from the top. First of all, in yesterday's lesson, we talked about, or the lesson we did the last time, we talked about something very important. Three major elements, and we're going to go over them. Three major method in which we use the CSS attributes, the CSS styling. So the first thing we talked about was we talked about selector, by the way. And one of the things we mentioned was that how to identify selector. We identify by name, we identify by class, and we identify by ID. So the reason for this identification is a way for us to pinpoint what it is we are styling. So look at this code now. We wanted to style the body. What did we do? We just went to style attribute and style the body directly. So we are going to translate all this styling into proper CSS styling using the style elements. The style element is added under the head section. So we're going to open our styling element here this way, and we're going to start one after the other. As we go down the program, we pick the style, what we want to style. So we don't necessarily need the visual interface for now. So we start from the top and we work our way down. The first style that we hit here is the body style that says margin should be 50 and the font is selected. This body appears once on the entire system, so there's no where we have more body. It's only one body. In that case, we can easily identify the selector of this body by name. How do you identify the selector by name? By using the tag name. If you remember our last lesson, to identify any element you can by name is just by using the tag name. In this case, it is body. The same thing if we were targeting H1, for example, we just do H1. So when you are, the rule behind it is just to put body here and put your parenthesis, and inside it you write your rule. We don't need to type our rule out again. Our rule is already here. This is a valid CSS code. We just copy it out here and we paste it here, and that is all we need to do. So what we've been able to do is to remove the style attribute of the body and put it under the style element. This is valid. So this is done. We've been able to do the first conversion from having the style here. Instead of having style attribute here, we've been able to move that style attribute to style element and update whatever is in the body of the style, the content of the style attribute, into the content of the body here. So this part is done. The next part, we'll scroll down to look for the next thing we need to do. So here you look at how many H1s do we have here. We just only have one H1. This is a closing H1. So we can use the same method we use for the body. So we're also going to be styling by name. We want to identify the selector by name. So how do we go ahead with it? We do H1 and we open this parenthesis. We just copy all the code here and we paste here, and that's all we need to do. We delete the style attributes that we have here and we are done. Everything still remains the same. So you can see that our code is looking cleaner this way. All our CSS are separated from our HTML. You can see that the HTML is all looking clean there. So we are done with the H1 element. So the next thing we have is the small. Again, you have to look at how many small do you have there. It's only one. It's only one. But yeah, it's only one small we have. So we can say all small should have a distinctive look. Or should have a specific look. You still use the same method we use for H1 to define the small. So we identify the selector by element name. So we do small that way, and we copy all the code here. We copied it inside the selector, and that is done. We delete the style attribute because it's not relevant again, and you have a clean HTML code. This one is better looking than what we have there. So you can see that we are converting our code gradually to a standard CSS document. So the next thing we have next is P. Now in this case, we can't style P individually the way we styled body, H1 and small. We can't do P like that. The reason is because if you style P that, we can see that there's a lot of paragraph being used and they have different styling. So you have to be careful here, because when you style P in one way, it will go and style everything, like if you use this method. So we now have to bring in class. You now have to start using class now to say, oh, okay, this class, this P is attached to this. This is what you want to do with it. The other P, you want to attach this to it. So let's look at how the visual part of the system and see what we want to attach to it. Okay, so we are here. This is the Saturday, February. Let's look at it here. So we can give it a name, a class name, and call this the date. I think we have here, that's the date. So you can call this a date. And how do you label your elements for use in your CSS selector? We use class, and we're calling it, I'll call it P date, which is paragraph date, or easy to use. So to reference this now in your selector, we use P date. So if I come here, and how do you reference a class? You use the dot notation, dot, and I come with P date. So anything that I put inside here will be referenced to that. So I carry all the style there. The style is just two things. It's just the font and the alignment to the right. So nothing so special. I copy that. I've already copied that. So I remove the styling, not needed anymore. I go to where I wrote my P date. I paste my new code there, and it's implemented. No changes. It's implemented. Just to show you that it's working, if I delete this code and save, you can see that all the rules that I've applied to it are gone. So if I implement it back, it all stays there. So we have that sorted out. The next part I want to go to is the alignment. Notice that all these other ones have specific or the same styling. Notice that all of them are styling to the right. So I note that I won't just say all P should stand to the right, because I have a P here that is standing to the left. So what can I do? I can literally create a class of style for these three that has the same class name. So I can call it I will say P right, meaning paragraph aligned to the right. That's just a name. You can give it any name. So be free to give your element or class any name that you wish, something that will make sense to you by the time you are looking at it in the future. So the name we call it is P right. We need to create a class for it, or rather the selector for it. So .P right. And what is the code? The code is just to align right. So we can delete all this just to show that it's working. When we delete all this and save, we've not added the code. You get to see that by default, it's just obeying and staying by the left, because we've not implemented the code for P right. So if you go to where you have it, you can just put your code there, text align to the right. By the time you save, it automatically knows what to do and goes to the right. So let me show you the code again from beginning. We are done. That's all. Let me show you the code again from the beginning. So if you look at your HTML, notice that there's no CSS rule there, and it's shorter. It's shorter. So all your rules are somewhere else in the styling. So your styling is done somewhere else, and that's why it's called CSS. It's a different language on its own. and what you have here is HTML on the bottom, right? How do you now style individual? To style this one, you give it a class name, and the class name, the reason why we just gave it special class name is because it's the only one that is doing two different things. It's aligning to the right and is changing the font size, right? While the rest are aligning to the right only. So we just did that, and we gave it any name we wish. So within the name is not a programmable name, it's any name that you want to give it, you give it to it. So you need to understand that the only thing we didn't use here is selector by ID. So there was no need for it. So we use selector by name. This is by name. By name, that's the name of the element. By name, this is selector by class. If we wish to convert this to ID, you can. ID has to be unique to the entire document. So since this appear once, we can use this as an ID. This can be an ID, and once you save, of course, it will distort because it has seen that this reference is not correct, because there's no definition as a selector for this. So the selector, the way the selector is supposed to be written is in this form. This is how to represent an ID. So you need to use this pound sign and the name, so you can see that now is correct. So this is using selector by ID. This is selector by class, and that is all. That is all.
Okay. Yeah, I said something to the group because I was trying to create something like that. Okay, because now I understand how to put, because where I was having issues was all my P's. I was putting them into one class. So
okay. Oh, so you can, yeah.
I was not trying to put everything on one background, so they have one background color, but it was now breaking where I have the alignment was fine, the name sat well, the front is the front.
Can you send your code? Can you send your code in?
It is horrible.
No, it doesn't matter. Just put it. If you can put it quickly, you can just put it.
Okay, I'm trying to copy and paste. So I send to the,
yeah, send to the group. Send to the group. No, send to the group. Just send to the group. Send to the group.
Okay. I'll send the picture to the group, and there's the code.
Okay, so looking at the code, I can't see the CSS.
Yes, because I was not confused, and I was not deleting
so many things. Okay, so this is the code that you have, and this is what we have here. So we had to also create a reference so that people can see what it is we are trying to do. I'm trying to save the preview so that we can see the okay, so this is what we are trying to design, right? You want us to do this? Okay, so let's quickly do this. Quickly. So we are using the style method attributes, the style attributes. So I just do style here. So I want to look at what we've make sure that we've captured everything. The lot family saved by, so we have all the names and everything all sorted out. So first thing I want to capture is a small writing right up here. So this is like a paragraph. Or let's do the background first. Let me do the background. So let me just do something more fancy, not like fancy. I will do this white background with it. So I will start with the body. So the body, I want the body to be, I want to set a margin. Margin, I want to do 40 px. So you can see what I did there. from the outside to the inside. I created a space by force. That's what happened here. So next thing I want to do is, I think that space is enough. I want to create a kind of border, 1px and solid gray. So that done, I want to now put a background on this, and we'll use that method that we use. I want to pick this background. I don't want to go into deep. We'll be able to do this gradient transition. We can do this gradient, but I don't want us to do that now. But let's just go ahead and put the background. That's what CSS will allow you to do. We can actually do that gradient if we want. So I want to pick that color, something similar. So we don't have time. Just pick something. Okay, let's just pick that. So the next thing we want to do is to pick, to write this. By default, we'll put everything in the center. So we can put everything in the center by default. So how do you do that? You can see that I'm styling the whole body, right? I'm styling the whole body. I'm not styling a particular thing. I'm styling the whole body. So that way, irrespective of which content I'm putting, automatically everything is in the middle by default. So that's what is happening here. So irrespective, everything is in the middle by default. That's what's happening here. So what I want to do next is, I don't like that color for some reason. Okay, so what I want to do next, we want to also notice that all the colors are the same. So we also want to do that. So you can see everything, I'm doing everything from a single body. I'm not going individually to be changing color on each of the elements. So there's no need if one thing can actually house everything. So let's go ahead and do the coloring to gold. Again, this feature that we see here, we can change it. What's it called now?
I think this one is dark gold.
Yeah, we don't need to be specific, but let's just go so that we can move on. Okay, so we have that. Don't worry, by the time we'll get advanced, we will do exactly this. We are still working our way. I don't want us to get lost in the design. I want you to understand the concept. So by the time you understand, even these effects you are seeing on the left hand side, we'll be able to, you can do it, we'll be able to do them. Okay, so we have that. Okay, the next thing we want to do now is, I think we are done with what the general document should have. Let's now start with the topmost thing that we have here, which is this section. So from here, you put it as H1. H1 are always something very big. So for me, I won't use H1. I can just use paragraph. But it's fine. You can, whatever you use can be styled to anything. So I will not touch your code. I will just style everything that we have there. So styling this H1, I will call it introduction. I want to give it a class name. So I will give it a class name called intro. Right? And then I will start the class. Notice it's a class. So class starts with dot intro. So what do I want to do to the intro? I want to make sure that the top, there's a space from the top. You know, that's a margin top. Margin top. I will do, let's do 40. And the font is small. Font size, let's do 20px. So let's see what we have. So notice that it's not also bold and capital letter is up. And that's why I would not want to use H1, because H1 by default is bold. So normally it should just be a paragraph. But again, I didn't want to touch the code. So let's use styling to change all those things. So the font weight, what is used to change the weight of how thick the font is using font weight. The next thing is already in capital letter. And let me see what you did here. You break. So this is not. So this is one word. What is here is one word with break. So what you did here, I need to correct it. What you did here was do H1 and you break into P paragraph, which is not okay. It should still be continuous H1. So you can have H1 broken down like this, and this paragraph is not needed. So this is how it should be. So the font is too much. Let's make it 10 and see what we have. Okay, so I think 10 is too small. Let's do 12 or 15. Okay, so let's move on from there. We have that done. There's a lot of space there. Let's do 50. So let's move on to the next thing. Let me also put a general font for everything. General font. Let me do a general font. Let me use this. Okay, we have that. The next thing we want to do is notice there's a something on the in the middle. So I will just, for lack of nothing to use now, I will just use P and do 3 dots. Right? Just for that to stay there. That is that. The next thing is the name of the name. Okay, save the date. So there's a fancy right up here. So save the date. I think save the date. There are two different fonts. This one is bigger, smaller, bigger. So let's achieve that. So we can use our span, right? Span, and put our save here. And another span here. And what are we trying to achieve? I want to style this one separate. I want to give this the same style as this and leave this one the way it is. So let's style this save the date. We can give it a name. What name do you want to give it? We can just say, and notice that the save and also this and looks like the same font. So we'll be using that. We'll be using this more often. So let's give it a class name. Let's call it S1. S1. Lack of name.
What about D1? As in like date, D1.
Yeah, it's okay. Can be D1. So because that's what I want to call everything. I'm calling this the same name because they carry the same font. I'm just giving it fonts. So I style this one as well. So for proper indentation, I do something like this. So we've not done anything special. So let's go ahead and implement the styling. D1. Now I will look into my system to look at the fancy font that I have. So I have to open a Word document. I need that font that looks like this. So I will bring up Word document so that we can copy a nice font in the system. While the document is trying to open, I style my D1. So let's look up a nice font. Save the date. Okay, so let's look for okay. There's one font like that. Okay, so let's use this font. Yeah. So in fact, I think yeah, we can, and I think we don't even need to style let's style everything the same thing, but I will just make it have different weights or different this one is bold and not bold. So the font is how do I copy this font name now? Oh, okay, I can do this. So I'll come here and do font family. I can remove this. Now if I come to this place, I have it not being implemented.
Is it because it's not among the font family?
No, no, hold on. Let me check what's going on. Okay, it's not seeing it. You can see that the font is changing, but it's not being enabled. Okay, so let me check something else. Let's check another font. So some might not be compatible in the browser. Some might not want to show on the browser, depending on the way the font was saved on my own system. So that's why I said this one, font thing, is a special class on its own. Dealing with font is another class on its own. Let's just quickly do a test with this random font and see what we have. Okay, so this is working. That font is working. This font we saved now is working. But let's look for the font that matches what we want to achieve. So since we can't use that one, I'll look for something close. Let's look for this. Let's use this is not okay. I don't know why this is not working. It should work now. Why is it not working? It should work. So let's move on. Let's not dwell on it too much. Let's look for another font. Okay, I think I just seen one. Okay, let's use this one. Let's hope this one will work. Okay, it worked. So this one worked. So let's go ahead and do all the updates I want to do on it. So what we will do is that, in fact, we can call the whole font the same thing. We don't need to style it separately. We can call the whole thing D1. We can call the whole column D1. So we do class D1. So we can do a font size. And that will be, let's say, 50 px. Okay, so we have that done. So let's compare with what we have there. So is it big enough? So let's make it big enough. So let's do 60. Now notice that automatically it's creating excess space on the top and on the left. So you can deal with that by doing, so there's something we call line height. We can do 10. Okay, let me try 0. Okay, let me do 40. Okay, so let's look at the next thing that we have. So we need on the bottom we have we are getting married on the bottom. So this one says, okay, so it's supposed to be we are getting married. So we'll come here and do we are getting married, and that part is like supposed to be a continuation of what the font that we have before. So we're not to touch it, we are to leave it as it is. So that one is okay, but the space is too much. So let me even look at what we have here. Let me look at what we have. I want to look at the space. The space that we have. So this one gives me, like, you can see the space here to here. I use this border hack to check things. So it gives me that there's a space here, and it means this one too has too much space to work with here, right? So what I do is I can just say, if you do margin bottom 0, you see what happens. You can see that it brings that space up. So there's still issue with padding, I get. Let me check if there's issue with padding bottom. Okay, there's no issue with padding. So it's just line heights that remain. line height, let me say 10 px. So let's do 20. Okay. Okay, because that distance is too much. So let's leave that one like that. Okay, so the next thing we have, we can adjust the distance later. The next thing we have is in the next section, Emily and this person. So we'll also put the dash and dash. I'll show you how to put the border up and bottom. So let's do the Emily person. Let's now do our span because we want to style it separately. So we do this, and we can do this. So we can give it, since it looks like we are using the same font, we use the same D1 that we use. So let me see how we can achieve that. Yeah, we use the same D1 for the entire paragraph. So if I use D1, I get this. So this is a funny font. This font is funny on capital letter. That's why it's looking like this. So let's use small letter, just because we don't have fonts that we can use. So you can see that the font is funny on capital letter. So let's do this so that we don't have something so bogus. Then let's now try our underline there. So what we want to underline is Emily. I will just say, I will put a different class to it because we're about to style it. So I will just say UD, that's underline. So we want to underline Emily and Laura. So we are adding the same class to them, UD. So let's go and style our UD and see what the styling is going to look like. So it's a class, there needs to be a dot, parenthesis. So how do you add a line on top and bottom? Very simple. You just use border. So you use border top, 1px. Let's see what it looks like. Solid. And we use the same color that we use for the font, and which is this. So let's see how it looks like. So this is how we add the border to the top. Then you can add it to the bottom as well, the same method, but instead of top, you use bottom. So another thing you will notice is that the bottom space is too much. How do you control the space in between the Emily and the one at the bottom? And the top, it looks too close. How do you shift it, to the right proportion? You use padding and margin. So if you just use padding 10, for example, you get increase in all angles. So you want to focus on one particular part. So let me show you what margin will also give us. So if you do margin, there's really no much difference with margin. So let's focus on padding. So the padding top, let's see padding top. I want to focus on, let's say 3 or 4. So 4 looks okay. So let's do padding bottom. Let's say 0px. Let me see what 10 will give us. Okay, so 0 it is. However, I'm not satisfied with the space. So I can use line height. I think I can use line height to determine the height of the font so that the system can know where to start implementing the line. So let me try 10. Okay, so that seems not to be working for it. Let's check the margin. Margin bottom, let's do. Okay, so that's what we can get with this. That's the effect that we can get with this. Let me see what we have here. So let's make it sit in the middle properly instead of hanging on the top. Let's see what we can do to make it sit on the middle. So it's by increasing the top, the padding on the top. So we'll have something like this. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing we have. Okay, the next thing we have is the date. September is bold, so that's like very easy to do. And we don't really need to put everything in paragraph. You can just put everything in one paragraph and use break to achieve the rest. Just like this. Let me see what we have here. And stop at 2022. Then you use break to end this. Then since September is bold, you can then do, you already know how to make bold. You then do this and this. So 28, we broke it, break. We have something like this. Okay, we have that set. So the next thing we want to do is, I think there's more space here than what we have here. So they implemented another break here. Hotel is the place hotel. And that's all. Then they use, I can say they use small. I can say they use small here to achieve the small address that they put in the bottom here. Say the Hart Avenue, so 5. So you can just use break. And I think this one is a little bit lighter. This one is bold. So this can be bold. As a B. So you have this effect. So to make it, because now this is, we are scrolling, so we can delete excess space that we have on the system. So there's too much space in between here and here. We can maintain one break here. We have too much space going on. Okay, so this is what we'll have. This is what we'll have. This is what we'll have. So when we get to the advanced class, you will see how we can do. I'm sure you already know how to put these flowers. If you have this flower, you can put it there. So, but the advanced class is how to put this gradient effect. We'll get there. I'm sure you've seen gradient buttons, as you use the web. So we'll show you how to do that by the time we get to that part. So let me try and recap everything we've done. So you saw me doing this, your code that you wrote, and I didn't write any style here. You can see that there's no style here. To style anything, you create a reference so that you can use it in your style element. In this case, because we'll be using the same styling for this and this, we wrap everything into D1. We style D1 together. D1 is, is this font, just this font. So we put everything into D1 because we'll be styling Emily and Laura differently. We put them in another class so that we can style them differently. And what we did was just we had border top and border bottom, nothing special. In fact, you can even come and add another font, so you can override what we've done, and come with a new design. Let me try this. You can come with a new something new. Do you see how it override your D1? This is D1 font. Now in UD, you say you want to have your own unique styling. Notice that this font still maintain the original font design because this font is for D1. So your UD, has now been updated to this one. So you can go ahead and keep styling text transformation, uppercase. You can have something like, because in the stuff is uppercase, then you can say it looks as if the font size is too much, because we are carrying the font size from this. So you can have something like this. And yeah, so this can be a thing. This can be a thing. Any question?
No.
Okay, so are we? So the thing is, the more you do it, the more you understand. So instead of you adding style here, if you want to start this, we are getting married now, right? You want to start this part. Instead of you saying this and saying color, instead of doing this, right, you take it out and you do it in your style attributes. But first of all, before you do that, how can you, what do you want to call this guy, this element? How can you reference it in your style attributes? What name do you want to give it? You know, since if it's unique, you use the ID. If it's just, you know, you're going to be reusing it, you have to look at your entire design. Is there something you're going to be reusing? Look at the way you reuse D1. If it's something you're going to be reusing, you can just give it a generic name by saying red, for example. Just say style is color, class name is a particular stuff. You can just call it red color. So it's as simple as just giving it that kind of name. And when you come to your coding, so if I save now, nothing happens. So now, but the browser already know that this is the class name is red color. So whatever you style red color to be is what the browser will call it at the end. So that's what we have. So let me call it green. 10%. I want to do something different. So let me call it this color that we have here. And do something like this. Oh, okay. So I need to go and style it separately. So that's everything now. We are done. I'm just giving it a facelift. Yeah, I wanted to do something like that underneath. I want this one to be a little bit faint. So I just use this alpha guy to just have a more fader gold, something that is a little bit faint, so that it's not stressed like this. Now, for example, notice that this is a little bit, well, not really lighter, but this is bold. But I wanted to create another effect, having this one lighter of this. So that's what I did with I just call it G10%. G10%. I just gave it a name. So it's very good for you to have a design in your head, but in this case you have a design you're looking at. So just for you to initiate it. So if we intend to pick this color now, so let me pick this color. Do I have this color now? So this is our background color. Okay, yeah, this is the background color. So this color is now for, let me now pick color for the font. So this is our font color. Looks like orange. Then if that's the font color, so it means it's going to affect a whole lot of stuff that we have. So I will then use that to affect our border. So there's a pound sign there. Then it means it's going to affect this. Then I can faint it a little bit like this. Okay, so that's that. Using the help of the system to give me that look. So there are other things, as I mentioned. You can do shadow, you can do border, you can do gradient. So all those things, you know, it will come with the training. So let me even do one more quick thing. Since this is the background, let me do background white, and the whole content, this whole content, I want to put it inside a div. Of course, I'm still coming with the body. So the whole div is going to be inside a body. So that I can now style this one and call it a class of card. Then I can now style my card to have background of this, and have my border become like this. Then I can do, yeah, I think that's more like it. So because I'm going to have only one card, I can say the card is an ID. Then instead of calling it a class, I can do an ID, and that's still the same. So what else? Are we okay with selector now? Stylishly.
Yes.
Okay. So it's just a way for you to manage your design. You need to be, again, you will see, try to look for ways you don't repeat yourself. If you can spread, you can see that with this one now, we add it to two things. We add it to this one, we add it to this one, you know. Then this other one, we add it to, well, we add it to the entirety of this. You know that's what this one is carrying. But we now branch out. When we came here, we branch out here, we branch out here, you know. So that's the purpose of this kind of design. And what it does is that it makes you able to easily update your page. You know, if you want to make any adjustments now to the design, you can just easily come to your code here, your CSS, and just work with it, and you are done. You don't need to be worrying about, oh, which format it is. You know, you don't need to come and tweak anything here. You just go to your CSS, add all the styling, and you are good. Thank you for staying to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on bell notification in order to be notified when we release new videos. See you in the next one.